Well, hi there everyone, welcome back to Calmsden, and we've drifted into the month of October. We're still doing quite a lot of field work. We're doing some fertilising here in field 23, which is the last of our oilseed rape fields. We've also got to do our 2 wheat fields in 25 and 16. Now we are kind of running down to the last bit of our mineral fertiliser that you can see there. That's our last 2 bags, but I'm hoping that will be enough just to finish this the headland off in this field, and then we also need to do the little grass field that's through here. Now the 8RX has got the Vedestad drill on it. You maybe remember in the last episode that we ploughed this field up, and the reason for doing that is so that we could get a proper field kind of defined for precision farming. So we've got to replant the grass in here, which we're going to do very shortly, and hopefully I'll have enough of that mineral fertiliser to be able to kind of do this field as well. Now we just have a quick recap on where we are with our crops. So we've got oilseed rape in 19, 20 and 23. We put wheat into 25 and 16, so that's our winter crops. Fields 3 and 6 we're going to leave for spring crops, but there is something that I'm going to do with those a little bit later. We've got to re-drill that woodland field with grass, as I mentioned earlier, and then everything else we've kind of left as is, or sort of undergrass anyway. So we've got second stages growth, as you can see, in kind of all of our winter crop fields. And soil composition, we've got some weeds that are coming up in those kind of fields that we've drilled as well. So quite patchy, as you can see, so we need to take care of those. Now I'm trying to do all the weed control mechanically, trying to avoid using herbicide as much as I possibly can, but we do need to get on with that fairly quickly before they kind of advance through sort of later stage growth. So what I'm going to do with one of the tractors is we're going to go down, we're going to pick up a much bigger weeder from the shop. We're just going to lease that for today to see if we can kind of get on top of these fields and get those weeds cleared as soon as we possibly can. Now if I just go into precision farming as well, you can see that we've got lime. pH levels are all good on fields 25, 16, 19, 20 and 23. Grass fields we haven't done yet, neither have we done 3 and 6, that can wait for the spring. And I probably won't bother doing the kind of lime on the grass fields either until we sort of get into the beginning of the new year, February, March time, something like that. But I will probably do something maybe in the little woodland field. We'll have to wait and see. And then as far as fertiliser is concerned, you can see that we've done 19, 20, got a little bit of the headland to finish off in 23. Want to do that grass field in the woodland area as well, and then we've got 25 and 16 to do. Now we'll have to use liquid fertiliser for that, but we've got plenty of it. Our tanks are still full, so that'll be one of the other tasks that we've got to get on with today. So first up, I've put a courseplay course in for the grass field here, and get the 8RX trundling on down to the field. His start point's down here, so hopefully, fingers crossed, he will get unfolded when he gets to the end and start putting the grass into this field. So whilst he's busy doing that, we're going to finish off fertilising field 23, that's just the other side of the trees there, and then I need to go and get a couple of the other vehicles sorted out so we can get them underway with some of their tasks and work. So we've got liquid fertiliser that we need to put down on fields 25 and 16, and then we need to start doing some of that weeding. Now once the drill is finished here, that's going to go into the workshop for a bit of maintenance, so it's all set ready for the spring. We are, however, having a new direct drill on trial later, so stick around so you can see what we're going to do with that and see if it's any better than the Vedestad that we've got. So next up, we just need to finish off doing this mineral fertiliser here in field 23. As I mentioned, these are the last 2 bags that we've kind of got. So this is going to put 2,000 litres into the fert spreader, which I'm hoping will cover what we need to do here, and then put us into, or give us enough to kind of do that grass field next door. But I'm not 100% sure whether it will do. As you can see, we are kind of applying the full target amount that we need for these fields, and we have done for all 3 canola fields. So we're burning through this fertiliser pretty quickly, as you can kind of see. I think what we probably should have done in hindsight is maybe put a fixed amount as an immediate kind of a post-emergent fertilisation for the oilseed rape, kind of going into the winter months, and then put a second application in the spring. So I think when we come to do our liquid fertiliser on the wheat, I think that's what we'll probably do. We'll do a set amount in the autumn now, and then we'll kind of do a second application up to the target amounts when we get round to the spring months. So next up, our John Deere 6230R. He's been in the workshop having an oil change and a few other bits and pieces done, so it needs a bit of a wash, so we'll do that, and then I'm going to get him to go down to the shop and we're going to lease that weeder so we can get it up into the first of the canola fields or the oilseed rape fields, and try and take care of some of those weeds, and as I mentioned earlier, we need to kind of crack on with that and do it fairly quickly before they get into another stage of growth and it's too late and we'll have to start using herbicide. Okay, so in the weeders section, we'll just have a quick look at this. So we're trying to get obviously the biggest thing that we possibly can, because we've got quite a bit of ground to cover. These two at the end here are similar sort of price. One's 12 metres, this one here is 15.2, and both of them can only be kind of used in the sort of first growing stages, but we are in growth stage 2 for the actual crop, and when I've checked the fields they kind of say small weeds, so these should be kind of appropriate and suitable. Don't need anything in terms of reseeding, so I think I'm going to go with this one. So we will just look to lease this, don't need to do anything to it at all. It's going to cost us £2,295 plus the extra charge for sort of working hour, but it's got a reasonable width, so hopefully we'll be able to kind of crack on with those fields fairly quickly. And the first thing I'm going to do is go down to field 19. That was the first field we drilled with oilseed rape. Do the OSR fields first, and then we'll kind of head back up and hopefully we'll be able to catch the 2 wheat fields as well. If not, we do have our other weeder that can deal with weeds at a later stage, but it's not quite as big. So we'll get this hooked up and get it off up to field 19, and we'll put a courseplay course in, of course, and then we will get this underway and hopefully it will start to cover the ground sort of fairly quickly, but they are some big fields, so we'll have to see how we get on. Okay, so we're underway. Good working width here on this weeder, so that's good. And as you can see, starting to take those kind of weeds out, and they're quite patchy, which is kind of what you expect with precision farming now. So they're not just a kind of a blanket cover of weeds. So we're beginning to take these out, which is good. And like I said, I'm kind of really trying to avoid using herbicide in these fields if I can. And personally, my kind of view is that from a precision farming point of view, I personally think that kind of removing the weeds mechanically rather than using herbicide should actually be better from a an environmental aspect rather than kind of having to use herbicide, but that's just my sort of personal point of view. Right, our 8RX is getting on well with the Veldestad drill. Won't take him long to finish off this grass field now, an 8 metre working width, and he's covering the ground pretty quickly. So as soon as he's finished, we'll get the foot spreader in here, get some fertiliser down on this grass, and then that will be kind of set for the winter. I think it only needs around about 10-20 kilos per hectare, so I'm pretty comfortable that what we've got left in that foot spreader should be good enough to get this field done. So that's all kind of good and ready. Right, well, we're back at the yard now. The 8RX is back with the Veldestad drill. We're just going to give that a good wash down, and then the Veldestad's going into the workshop for a bit of maintenance. Need all the disc holders to be swapped over and changed because they're pretty worn down. I've got the case Maxim on the Dalbo rolls. We're just going to go and roll in that little grass field in the woodland area, so that's all kind of good and ready. And then we've got the Massey Ferguson all hooked up to the sprayer. We've filled up from the fertiliser tanks, and he's going to put her up to field 25 and 16 and start putting fertiliser down on that, so that's all set and ready to go into the winter. And the 6230R is getting on pretty well doing the weeding up here in field 19, so he's progressed pretty well. He's on the kind of shorter runs now down by the road, so I don't think it'll take him too long to get these this field finished. Then I'll move him over the road into field 20, and then I think what I'll probably do is get this one transferred up to field 25 and 16 to take care of the weeds up there, and I'll use the little Maxim, the case, once he's finished that rolling in the woodland field, to come down and do the weeding in field 23 with the other weeder that we've got. Right, we're just pulling into the little woodland field down here. I'll get the rolls unfolded, unpacked, and then we'll get the case kind of to get this field sorted out. Now the horsepower in this case is only 145 horsepower. The Delbo rolls normally need around about 160, 170, but hopefully it won't have too many problems. Might struggle a little bit going up and down the hills, but they're only sort of fairly shallow up here, so that should be fine. So I'm going to leave the case down here to get on with this, and as I mentioned beforehand, as soon as he's finished, I'll get him to pick up the other weeder and then come down and kind of do field 23. And then I'll head back to the farmyard. We'll pick up the Massey Ferguson, get up to field 25 and start putting some liquid fertiliser down on those two fields up there. And as I mentioned beforehand, we'll kind of put a set amount going into the winter, and then we'll look at doing another fertiliser application in the spring. Right, we're just pulling into field 25 here, so I'll just pull a bit into the field so we've got enough space to get the booms unfolded. We'll get those done, and then we'll jump out, check the boom, and have a quick look to see sort of what state the nitrogen levels are in the field. Right, we've got the booms unfolded. Just have a little wander along the boom here just to make sure that the nozzles are all okay. You can see there's two different types on here. We've got a spray nozzle, and then more that's one kind of a bit of a stream or a dribble, which is kind of used for the fertiliser. So just make sure that these are all good. And then what I'll do afterwards, we'll just wander out into the field a little bit, just so that we can kind of see maybe how the fertilisation kind of levels differ across the field. I think you can kind of see down in the precision farming menu at the bottom that we've got about 140 kilo per hectare requirement of nitrogen down here in this bottom end of the field, but the soils are a little bit lighter down here. Only got 30 kilos level at the moment, so we certainly need to give that a boost. And then we head up to the field. When we get to the sort of top end of the field, we've got slightly heavier soils. You can see that the overall requirement has gone up to 200 kilos per hectare, and we've only got around about sort of 10 to 15 at the moment, so that's kind of a lot lower levels. So I think what we'll probably do is look to put around about 80-90 kilos per hectare on at the moment. That will give them a good boost going into the kind of the winter months, where we've still got a fair sort of temperature at the moment in October, November, before the winter sets in, and then we'll look at doing variable rate application when we get into the spring to give the crops another boost as the warmer weather kicks in. Right, I'm back in the tractor. As you can see at the top left menu for the precision farming, down here in this bottom end of the field, we've got a full application rate of 145 kilos per hectare. And as I mentioned, I don't want to put the full amount on now. We're going to do one application now in the autumn, and then another application in spring. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up the menu. I'm going to hit my Y key and turn off the automatic application rate, and then I'm going to make a manual adjustment using my key, my K and my M keys, just to adjust at the moment. If you look at the fertiliser application rate at the moment, it's currently sitting at 25 kilos per hectare down at the bottom there. So I'm going to nudge that up to around about 85 kilos, I think probably maybe 90, because it needs a little bit extra up at the top end of the field. That gives us an actual application rate of 230 litres a hectare in terms of liquid fertiliser. So I'm going to set it at that rate. I'll get rid of that. We'll get a courseplay course set up, and I'll get the Massey underway fertilising this field. Right, we've got the course set up, first time around the headland, and you can kind of see in the top precision farming menu that we're doing a steady application of 90 kilos a hectare. The actual amount of nitrogen, the current level of nitrogen in the soil is adjusting slightly, as you can see, sort of between 0, 5, 10 kilos per hectare, so it's kind of almost non-existent up here, and you can see that the target amount of 220 kilos per hectare is what it will ultimately require. So I'm going to leave the sprayer up here to do this fertilising. We'll do field 25 and then it'll move over into field 16 next door. So it'll be good to get those kind of two done now. While this is sort of the crops are in their early stage of growth, so it will give them a good boost going into the winter. And then, as I mentioned, when we get into the spring months, sort of February, March time, we'll do a second application at a variable rate. So hopefully we'll end up with exactly the requirement that we need for the field when the warmer temperatures kind of kick in and the crops will really start growing as they head towards the summer. Well, our 6230R had finished over the road in field 19, so I've moved him into field 20. First time around the headland here, so he's going to get on with doing this weeding, and then once it's done, hopefully the sprayer will be finished in field 25 and I can move him up there. And our Massey has finished his headland work now, so he's just starting the land work. Now, I mentioned nozzles earlier on the boom, and I've always kind of wondered why Giants haven't kind of put two different applications in, one for herbicide and one for nitrogen. So normally nitrogen would be delivered as a sort of a steady stream of liquid rather than a spray. So I've never sort of quite understood why they haven't differentiated between those two, and it would kind of be nice to see it, to be honest. So having a proper spray for the herbicide, but then having more of a kind of a dribble of liquid, so to speak, for the liquid nitrogen. Right, back up at the farmyard now, and we've given the 8RX and the Vedestad drill a good wash down. Drill's going into the workshop. You can see that the seed coulter's on the back here, and the disc harrows at the front there are getting pretty worn out now, so they all need to be replaced. They've had a fair amount of work to do over the last few weeks. So we'll put the drill into the workshop so that can get that sorted and be set and ready for the spring. Now, we have got some other work that we're doing this afternoon, and I mentioned earlier that we've got a new drill that's coming for a bit of a trial, and we're going to kind of use that in field 3 and 6 to do something a little bit different to what we normally do. Right, we've finished fertilising in field 25, just pulled the tractor into field 16 here. You can see that John Deere's turned up. He's finished doing the weeding in field 20, so I'll move him into field 25, so that was good timing. Now, just having a quick look at field 16, you can see here we've got a sea of red in terms of the fertiliser level at the moment, but because the soil type here is a little bit different to field 25, the actual nitrogen requirements are a little bit kind of higher. So as far as application rate is concerned, I'm actually going to bump this up a little bit to about 100 kilos per hectare, so that's going to be 256 litres a hectare in terms of the application rate. So subtle adjustment there, and then of course we will do the second application of fertiliser in the springtime. So I'll get this sorted out with a courseplay course. We'll get this underway. I'll get the weeder starting to work in field 25, and then we'll go up and hopefully that drill has arrived back at the yard. Okay, so the trial drill has been delivered up here to the farmyard. This is a Borgolt CD872. Now, this is what I would call more of an out-and-out direct drill. So unlike the Vedestad and other drills that are available in the shop, there's no form of cultivation, no disc harrows or anything like that at all that are in front of the disc coulters. So this has just got an angled disc which opens a little slot in the ground. The seed is delivered into that, and then there's a closing wheel behind that closes that slot up. Now, we've also got a fertiliser tank on here as well, so you can do seed and fertiliser placement at the same time if you wish to. But part of the reason that we decided to go down this route is that we're interested in looking at a sort of no-till farming process and sort of minimal cultivation, all that sort of stuff. And we thought it was a prime opportunity to be able to trial that out in this field here. Now, we were going to leave this under stubble over the winter months, but we've decided to put a cover crop of oilseed radish in here. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we kind of get drilling. So we're going to hook up the 8RX to the new drill. We'll put some seed in it, and then we'll kind of get drilling in this field, see how things get on. Now, the one thing I have noticed is the drill is pretty big. I have to say it's certainly bigger than the Vedestad drill, I think, and you know, quite a bit longer as well. So I'm hoping that won't cause too many problems on these little country lanes that we have around Calmsden. So I'll just get it filled up with some seed. We've got a single bag here on the JCB. Hopefully that will be enough to get this field done. So we'll get this in, get into the field, and get drilling. Okay, so we're underway. And I think putting a cover crop in is a bit of a no-brainer, really, particularly if you're running seasonal cycles. But I'll explain a little bit more about that in a little while. A couple of things that I'll point out is I did have to put some fertiliser in the tank, just a small 50-litre bag. The drill wouldn't kind of operate without it, but if you have a look at the precision farming menu up in the top left-hand corner, you will say that this particular crop doesn't need any additional fertiliser, so it's not applying anything, so that's not too much of a problem. And also we can't use any variable seed rate with cover crop, it just doesn't need it. So why a cover crop? Why is it important? Well, I think in Farming Simulator probably less so than maybe in real life, but I think it certainly has some benefits. Now, if you are doing seasonal cycles and you've just come out of harvest, you're leaving your stubble potentially over the winter months, and you're going to put spring crops in, as I am with this field, then I think it's an absolute no-brainer that you would just put a cover crop in over those winter months, because you certainly get a benefit from it. Now, if you're running precision farming, it'll add 25 kilos of nitrogen to your nitrogen levels. If you're not running precision farming, then you'll benefit from one fertilisation stage, so 50% of your fertilisation requirements as a result of this. Now, it's pretty cost effective to put in. The seed rate is pretty low, so it doesn't cost you an awful lot of money to actually put it in the ground, and so from that point of view it's very cost effective, and it also grows and establishes itself very quickly. It only takes 1 month, so if you're only running a single day or 2 days, you're only looking at 1 or 2 days growth. So my plan here for the farm on Calmsden is that we will gradually move to a no-till system, and I'll start using cover crops a lot more often. And as far as these two fields are concerned, this field 3 here and field 6, then what we will do as well is that come the springtime, we will also put some of our manure down on the fields as well, so that will add to our fertilisation levels and nitrogen, and then I will direct drill our spring crops straight into the cover crop, and it's only at that stage that we'll start to see the benefit of that 25 kilos of nitrogen that comes from the oilseed radish. Now, in real life, the sort of cover crops probably have a lot more impact to farming than they kind of do in Farming Simulator. So as I've mentioned beforehand, they do grow and establish themselves very quickly. They increase soil and organic matter and fertility. They help reduce soil erosion and improve soil structure. And they also help promote water infiltration through the root systems that a lot of the cover crops have. And they can also help limit pest and disease outbreaks as well. So they have an awful lot of benefit. And in the UK, we're certainly beginning to see a lot of farmers use cover crops kind of more often. And if you want to find out a little bit more about that, then there's a farm manager called Jake Freeston, who manages a farm up in the Cotswolds. He operates on a no-till system and utilises cover crops quite extensively, so if you're interested in that, go and check his YouTube channel out because it's really interesting. Now, with precision farming being introduced to FS22 a few months back, and particularly the environmental score, I'd really like to see cover crops play a bigger part in Farming Simulator. I think particularly because they're having, in the real world, in the UK, they seem to be having a lot more impact in terms of farming methods these days. And it would be quite interesting to kind of see if they could also introduce the use of cover crops having an impact on that environmental score as well, mainly because of the effect that they do have on soil health and soil structure. It really is proving to be quite effective, and I think as a result of that it would be good to see that impact the environmental score and kind of boost that a little bit if you're using cover crops, and then hopefully that will encourage people to kind of use them a little bit more in their day-to-day farming on FS22. So I don't know if many of you out there kind of use cover crops at the moment, but if you want to be a little bit more true to life, particularly if you're playing UK maps, then it might be something that you want to consider, and especially if you're playing seasonal growth, then putting a cover crop in the autumn, letting it sit in your field over the winter months would be a good thing, and it will certainly add to your fertilisation levels come springtime. And of course you can then direct drill your spring crops straight into that oilseed radish and limit your kind of farm work, which will help reduce your overall costs. So that's our first field 3 done. We've got the oilseed radish in here now. As you can see, it's growing. We've only got a single growth stage, so it won't take long for this to kind of come up. And then, of course, we won't see the benefits of the additional nitrogen level until we incorporate that oilseed radish back into the ground. So we're going to go and do field 6 as well. And if we just have a quick look at the map. Now you can see that our fertilisation levels in field 25 and 16 are kind of the sort of yellowy green stage, having put that fixed rate of 100 kilos in there. And as I mentioned beforehand, we're then going to do a second application of fertiliser in the spring months when the crops are sort of need to get a boost going into the summer. So we'll do that at that stage, and that will take us up to our full fertilisation level. So we'll do variable rate at that point. You can see that our environmental score is beginning to creep up, going up to 62 now. So that was kind of just over 50 odd when we started. We've still got a few fields that will obviously have an impact on that as well, but it's good to see that that score is beginning to grow. So that's it for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, then don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and please leave a comment down below. I'd be interested to know whether you might consider using cover crops a bit more, having watched this video. So please leave a comment down below, that'd be great. So whatever you're doing, wherever you are, stay safe, take care, and I will catch you on the farm next time. Bye for now.